I recommend it. Welcome to Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Yes, the Beetlejuice 2. Although it's not called Beetlejuice, it's called Beetlejuice. Which, by the way, what's up with that? That's point 1. Why is it called Beetlejuice 2? 0 out of 10. Here's my quick review of Beetlejuice 2. I'm a big fan of Beetlejuice. I actually got Beetlejuice tattoo right there. It's the cartoon. I'll talk some more about the cartoon. But I'm a big fan of Tim Burton. As you've seen, I have my Tim Burton Collection video. It's actually one of my more popular videos on this channel. You can check that. I'll show some footage of it here, but you can check that out too. If you're wondering coming to this review where I'm at with Tim Burton stuff, I'm a big fan. So I'm probably going to be a little colored by that fact. But you may be wondering what somebody who is a fan of Tim Burton stuff and a big fan of the old Beetlejuice and everything like that, I wonder what I think. You know what the critics think, but you want to see what some person who obsessively collects all this stuff might think. Well, I'm going to tell you. So, sequel to Beetlejuice from 1988. I love the original one. It has such a charm. Crazy. In fact, I did a really in-depth review of that one. I guess I'll put a link to that somewhere. But I'm a big fan of it. And I think it's one of the funniest movies of that time. But the thing about it is that it's so unique. Yeah, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. It's kind of really strange. They don't really explain a ton in it. But that's kind of what I like about it. It's just sort of the story, this kind of creepy little ghost house story, right? So there was a ton of attempts to try and make a sequel. There was, of course, the famous script that's floating around for Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. And even Kevin Smith talked about how, the guy who made Clerks and all that, he talked about how he was asked to direct a Beetlejuice sequel and was like, nah, I'm good. I'm actually pretty good. But let's talk about what actually did come out. So, Beetlejuice right now in 2024. I got my papers here just in case you forgot I was 1,000 years old. Print out some papers to help me in my YouTube video. If you want my spoiler-free review of it, of what I think of Beetlejuice 2, and if you should see it. If you're a fan of the original, I recommend it. Now, a lot of the commercials and trailers and interviews and stuff say you don't really need to see the first one to enjoy this one. And I think that's true. They said that with Blade Runner 2049. And technically you don't need to see it, but technically you don't ever need to see any movie to see another movie. You can technically just watch any movie you want out of order. I could technically watch the Avengers Endgame, but I'm going to be missing a ton of stuff. This is kind of like that. Like, it really helps if you have seen the first one because they don't really explain the rules of the dead, and there's some new ones. They don't explain a lot of the basic rules that were in the first one, and there's a lot of callbacks to the first one that you would just be totally missing out on. In fact, some pretty major character stuff happens in it that is directly related to the first movie. So, I don't know. I think it helps. Do I recommend it overall? Yeah. I think it was a really good sequel to the original Beetlejuice. If you dig the first one, I think you're going to dig this one. There are some, I'll nitpick on some things, but overall, I think it was really good. So if you're just looking for that, no spoilers, I think it's great. I like what they did with the characters. There's some maybe not some directions I would have gone with some of them, but all of it makes sense to me. And I think overall they really captured the spirit of the original in a new way. By the way, one of the things I have been enjoying as a fan of a lot of Tim Burton and Beetlejuice stuff is I actually like all the marketing stuff that they're doing. There's like marketing the heck out of this movie. You've probably seen a ton of that. Probably when this video is much older, people will have forgotten the marketing push for this movie. But yeah, when I go to see the movie, I got this is the character Bob. It's like a drink cup, which is really cool, and the head comes off. If I can get it, not break it. Oh well, there you go. So it comes off and you can drink out of this. That was cool. They also had some popcorn buckets and all kinds of stuff. I actually got the poster when I went to I saw it like pretty much day one. So yeah, I'm digging all that. It reminds me of how people talk about the 80s Batman, how there was such a big marketing push with toys and movie appearances and advertising and stuff. It really reminds me of that, where they're just throwing Beetlejuice into everything, and I like it because I like Beetlejuice. If it was something else, I'd probably be really annoyed. I'd be like, can I stop seeing it? But because of the subject matter, I like it. Here's the Beetlejuice promotional Fanta. Now I know Beetlejuice has had many promotional things recently, but I'm all for it. This is the Haunted Apple. It's the spiced apple soda. Got some other natural flavors. Wouldn't be America without that. Like, that's awesome anyway. They should make cans like this, actually. What a dumb look. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try this probably concoction of terrible chemicals. But hey, it's got Beetlejuice on it. So let's check it out. Fanta, don't you wanna? Remember that? That was a commercial. Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god, that is horrible. Oh man. Oh! Oh, what is that? Ugh. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is really bad. What? It's like a bad gingerbread house, like, threw up in my mouth. Like, what why didn't you just make it apple soda? Fanta already has a bunch of weird colors. What do you doing? This is terrible. This is horrible. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. Alright, now I'm gonna go into spoilers. And well, it's some story stuff, but it's probably, know me, it's gonna bleed into some spoiler stuff. So if you want to go in completely blind, stop now, but I do recommend you go see it. Anyway, going to the film. So it does start off, you know, obviously many years later. They're picking up where basically the first movie would be picking up in real time. They're not saying, oh, well, they're not doing like one of those flashback movies. It's, oh, it's still 1988 type of thing. You know, it's supposed to be now. And it starts off with Lydia as the presenter of a kind of like a kitschy talk show host for like ghosts, like one of those ghost shows. Like, we can talk to the paranormal stuff. Of course, Lydia does actually have the ability to do that, but it's funny the way that they do it. I actually love the set design and everything they have in this. By the way, first off, for this, the set design and the way it looks, I do love the look of this movie. And plus, they have a lot more of the Netherworld, or Netherland, or whatever they call it. I don't know. In the cartoon, they call it the Netherworld, but they have a lot more of the underworld stuff, and they do it so great. There wasn't that much of it in the original, you know, probably for budget reasons and, you know, a lot of reasons. But this one, they have a lot more of it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Lydia Dietz is having some problems with life. Seems like got some stress, some anxiety kind of stuff going on. Not in the best relationship with the character Rory, played by Justin Theroux. I think that's how you say that. Obviously, the guy is not cast in a very positive light in this film. But right in the beginning, they have a great thing where Danny DeVito is just, they cut to the Netherworld, and Danny DeVito is a janitor there, and he accidentally unearths Dolores LaVerge, but it's Beetlejuice's ex-wife, and she's like all in these pieces and stuff, played by Monica Bellucci. As you can see, I'm not up on most modern actors. I know Danny DeVito though. Unearths Beetlejuice's ex-wife, and then she's like, I'm gonna kill the hell out of Beetlejuice again. So she has the ability to kill dead people, make them super dead. There's like, you're dead and then you're like double dead. So you gotta watch out. And I love that story. I actually think that's really great. It's super simple. It's like very villain of the week. But jump back to like Lydia and the living people. Lydia's dad dies, originally played by Jeffrey Jones in the original. Of course, there's a lot of controversy with Jeffrey Jones. So they killed him off in this, and they do it in a pretty brutal way. It's basically like a headless stump that's shooting blood everywhere the whole movie. But you do have the return of Catherine O'Hara. Obviously, you have Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. You have Winona Ryder as Lydia Dietz. You have the new person, Jenna Ortega, as Astrid, who is Lydia Dietz's daughter. Now that was kind of different for me. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could see that happening with the character in the original. It's kind of interesting because Astrid, I think, starting off as like in the school, and it seems like they're very distant, like won't even return when Lydia calls. There is like some animosity. It's almost like Lydia Dietz grew up and has like a ton of anxiety problems and a ton of issues, obviously relating to the ghost stuff, like I've seen ghosts and stuff, but then has like another goth teenage daughter, which is pretty funny to me. Like, cause now Lydia, who was the mopey, daughter in the original, now has another like mopey, kind of angry, brooding daughter, which is kind of hilarious. And they do comment on that in the film. Astrid gets wrapped up into this whole plot that actually ends up having her soul be on the chopping block and her being dead, and actually bringing back this serial killer, which is like this crazy plot. I like that. I like the kind of twist of it, but it's weird because I saw Wednesday, the show, which also has a very similar plot line, which again had Tim Burton directing it and then Jenna Ortega in it, with a guy who's like seems all nice and everything, and then is like a crazy killer dude. And this also has that. It's like this really nice kind of guy, and Jenna Ortega falls for him, and then all of a sudden he's like a murderer. Like, I'm sensing a pattern here. But I do like the plot of that, where you have the two plots going concurrently, which is Beetlejuice's ex-wife, is trying to kill Beetlejuice because Beetlejuice chopped her up. And you have the plot line of Astrid trying to basically be saved. I mean, the whole plot line of her meeting this guy and then almost losing her soul, and it gets intertwined with like Lydia Dietz's husband and stuff. Like, I really thought a lot of these plot lines were cool. Like, I thought they worked for me. I like them all together. I think it just worked for me. What it actually really reminded me of was the cartoon show, the 1980s cartoon, because it feels like a couple of those episodes smashed together, where if there would be an episode where, oh, the character of the week, the villain of the week would be, oh, hey, Lydia, oh, it's my girlfriend, or something like that. And then that would be a 25-minute episode. And then, oh my gosh, like, my friend accidentally sold her soul, and now we got to go to the Netherworld and stuff. It really reminds me of those cartoon episodes, but put into like a feature film. And so, for me, it really worked. Like, for some people, it's going to just seem like, well, did anything really happen? Kind of, it's like, not, the stakes aren't the highest in this film, but that's kind of what I like. It's just goofy and a lot like the original in the tone of it. And I also like how they kind of kept Beetlejuice. He's like exactly the same. Like, Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is like exactly the same character. He did not grow. He did not mature. He is like the grossest thing ever. And I love the flashback to where he's alive, where it's like a silent film. It's so funny to me. This was hilarious. I think actually Tim Burton commented on, he basically said that he didn't want to adjust the character because he said the point is that he does not undergo any character arc or development, never evolving, which is pretty much, I mean, like, it picks up exactly where he was. So I did like that about this film, the fact that they're just like, yeah, he's already dead forever. He's not going to grow anymore. Of the negatives of this film, I do have to say, because I was talking about how all the practical effects and the look of it and everything, I really like that, and the music, it's really good. But I gotta say, the ending, it was a little strange even compared to the original, because I know the original kind of ends on the thing of, okay, like, Lydia still communicates with the dead, and there still goes, all that kind of stuff. The house is still technically haunted, but, it's a weird ending in the original. Look at it outside the context of, we're all very used to that ending. This one has a pretty strange ending as well. It has like this weird dream sequence at the end, and it kind of ends on maybe like a little bit of a cliffhanger. Not really. I mean, it's supposed to be like a kind of jokey, not as serious ending. But the whole thing where Beetlejuice is trying to marry Lydia in this is really drawn out. Obviously, if you're looking at it very logically, you're like, oh, he could have just gotten away with it if he had just not sang has this huge dance number or anything like that. But I guess the point of it is that Beetlejuice is a very over-the-top guy who would let a musical number ruin his plan, because he just feels like he needs the theatricality of it because he's Beetlejuice. By the way, love Willem Dafoe's character in this. He's like a movie star who got killed, but he's like a main detective guy. He was so great. He fit right into that world. Loved it. One of the other things I want to mention, because I know people are talking about how they do have like a representation of Jeffrey Jones in this. He's not actually in it, but like his image and stuff is. But they don't have the Maitlands in it. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Now I know Alec Baldwin is, there's all a whole bunch of stuff going on. But Gina Davis, talked about how she didn't come back. She's like, well, the reason I think she stated was because, they're supposed to stay the same. They're supposed to look the same to when they are younger, because they died. They're supposed to stop aging. She's like, well, I've aged since then, whatever. Which I think they could have obviously balanced out with the technology nowadays, But they do write them out of the story with like a very quick line saying, oh, well, they managed to move on past this thing, so we don't see them. There's no Maitlands in this, which is a bummer because they were such great characters in the original. Probably the only like really wholesome part of the original was them, and they're not in it, so they just don't exist in this. One of the things I did love though, as a story part of it, is the fact that like they have a few twists in this. Obviously I talked about one, but the other one later in the movie is that Catherine O'Hara dies. Lydia's mom dies, and Delia. It's like so quick. It's like almost like a twist, but it's like played off as a joke. But it's so funny how she just like is alive, is bitten by snakes, and is just dead. I love that. I was laughing so hard. That was just awesome. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. I hope that they make a 3. Tim Burton has pretty much ruled out, saying, well, it took this long to get this one made. I really doubt if we'll make another one. But I know everyone's calling this the return of Tim Burton, and this is like what he should have been doing. And I agree. I think the last movie he made was like Dumbo, which, don't get me wrong, that movie's okay for what it is, but it's not that great. Like it's totally okay. Even the movies he was doing, like Big Eyes, and I got a soft spot for Big Fish going back, but people love these kinds of films that he does where they're like very styled, very abstract, a little weirder. Everything that you would think of like a Tim Burton film. He hasn't done one of those for what seems like quite a few years. I think people are saying like Sweeney Todd was like one of the last ones that he did where it felt like that kind of film. And this really feels like a quintessential Tim Burton film. Like what everyone really loved about his stuff is in this. Just wacky characters, the great practical effects, the story that doesn't really make a ton of sense, but you kind of sympathize even with like the villain of the film. He's kind of the more interesting characters, which actually what they criticized for the original. But really dug this movie. So if you're thinking you should see it, although it's probably I just spoiled the entire movie for you, but I think you should see it. Like if you're on the fence. So that's what I got. What else do I have for it? I think that's all I got. Bing bada boom. Go watch the cartoon. Go watch the original. Just go watch it. I don't know. Go watch things. I don't know. Not your dad. Go do your thing.